I guess we're ready. I think we are. Looks like there's audio. Looks like there's video. Well, I can't tell because I've got headphones on today. Do I need them on right now? Probably not. I don't need them until I'm actually, doing stuff. But anyway, let me make sure. Let me just listen. Okay. I just had to check the feed to make sure you all could hear me. So if you're wondering why I'm wearing headphones, I tried this last week. Didn't work out real well. Trying it again, or not last week, last Wednesday, 2 days ago. And I'm trying it again today, basically trying to use headphones to alert me as to when people are active in the chat. And that will make me more responsive. Because, I want to be more responsive. I want you all to hear me. Or I want you to be able to interact with me. I want to be able to talk to you. I want to know when you're actually talking to me and not just hanging out. But let's see here. Hey, JR's Woodshop is live on Twitch. You should go check him out. You should check him out. He's exciting AF. All right. Doom, boom, ba-doom. I'm going to turn this off for right now because I don't need this. Although, someone told me there's like a way to do it through your phone. So if you're listening to your phone through your head. But I've got a program on here that actually is text-to-speech. And I'm hoping that it is going to do the job. Excuse me. So I'm hoping it's going to do the job of notifying me when somebody actually enters the chat, or when somebody enters the room, and when somebody actually asks a question, I should hopefully know. So we're gonna find out. I'll be right there. I'm getting something to show you, or to show off, and I need to do some work on this, so I'm not done with it, but I needed to get a project that I had inside. Oh, I've got a couple of others I need to go get too. So hang on a second. Yeah, you can see me just on the edge of the frame there. I'm still here. I am still here, so don't go away. I'll be right back. I'm just gathering some goodies. I know I should have been prepared, but I was not. I was doing lots of stuff behind the scenes today. So. Anyhow, I'm going to gather these little tidbits up and bring them in because it's basically show and tell. Because I was actually able to finish a project yesterday. And this is an important one because this is one that has to go in the mail to different locations because, it's that whole Christmas shipping thing. And I want to make sure that I get things shipped in a timely fashion. I mean, I have dust and stuff over here like crazy. I need to clean all this off. I need to move this camera back to where it belongs, just like over here and kind of this way, and turn it. I probably need to turn it on. I don't know if you can turn this one on yet. Let's check. Let's see if I got a camera 4. Hello, camera 4. There's camera 4. All right. I'm going to grab my my dust collection, which is currently, you can see it's actually attached to my CNC machine because I was doing CNC routing. That's one of the things I was doing yesterday. And I'm going to show that off to you in a minute. If you look at my Instagram or my Facebook page dedicated to the wood shop, you might have seen the results of that CNC carving. But if you didn't, I'll show you anyway. I'm going to just clean some of this dust off here because it's needing to be done. It's very bad over here. So hang on a second. And hang on a second. Let's see if this works. Okay, I'm actually very happy with what just happened. And you're like, I don't know what happened. You vacuumed. Good deal. No, that's not what happened. So this morning, I reinstalled, or I went back a version of a software that is my noise canceling software that I use NVIDIA broadcast. I've got an NVIDIA graphics card in my streaming computer, and they make fantastic graphics cards. And one of the features of this particular card is a piece of software that utilizes technology in a graphics card to do noise canceling if you're doing, audio streaming and things like that, which I am. Their noise canceling is fantastic. But I went from version 1.2 to 1.3, and what I noticed this first when I was actually playing games with my son and my friends, and they're like, "What's all that noise and everything?" And I'm like, "I've got my noise cancellation on." They're like, once I stopped talking, it did its thing. Like it quieted the noise, but then it would slowly ramp back up to allow the noise to come through. So I don't know what they did when they went to the latest version. But anyway, this morning what I did was I downgraded to the previous version, which actually worked fine. My camera is crooked. I don't like that. I'm going to fix my camera. I just don't like looking at myself crooked. Maybe you enjoy it, but I do not. So I'm going to loosen this, and it's probably going to get worse before it gets better. I think that'll be better. I need to put a better ball head on here. I've just got like you loosen one knob and the whole thing's on a ball, and there's no way to control vertical or horizontal or anything like that. It's a floppy ball kind of thing. Well, that's sort of it. I mean, you can cutting off the top of my head, but I'm a tall guy, so that happens. Anyway, so what I did was I reinstalled the previous version, which took a little doing because I didn't have it saved on this computer. I only had the latest version. And so I had to go downstairs to my gaming computer where I actually did have it. And then I had to upload it to the cloud and then come up here and download it from the cloud and then reinstall it and blah, blah, blah. But it appears to be working. So when I stop talking, the noise level drops down to a very, very low level. I have fans and such running, so it'll kill that. But when I'm running a tool, it should quiet that pretty quickly. So watch when I turn this on. You can see how the tool noise from that vacuum just drops down really, really low, and it'll hold there, which is good. I had noticed that my volume levels were creeping back up as I was using some tools and stuff. And I was like, that's not the way it's supposed to work. So I fixed that this morning. So good for me, which is one reason why I was a little late getting things kind of organized here. Not too bad, but a little late. Let me get this plane out of the way. So yes, so I did use my CNC machine yesterday and got CNC milling done to this latest group of objects that I'm working on. And you can see on the back, on the computer screen behind me, you can see the files that I was using to create the cutouts. So I think I went over setting that up. I think we did that actually in stream on Wednesday, where I actually showed the screen of me using the what is that, Inventables easel software to set up my CNC cut. It's pretty easy to use. That's why I like using that software. It's not nearly as complicated as some of the software out there. It's more limited in its capability, but it's also really easy to use. And yes, it is web-based, but that's okay. Hey, welcome, Didatera. Welcome, nice to see you here. Anyway, so I set up a cut profile on my CNC on Wednesday. And yesterday I spent all day cutting those out. They were really long cut profiles. So it took about an hour and 10 minutes to do the whole cut because I did a rough cut and then I did a final cut. And it looks like this, and I don't know if you can see that or not. It's kind of hard to see. Let me see if you can see it easier on this one. So what I did was I cut two, I'm trying to get the light right. So I cut 2 circles in here. I cut one over here and one over here. These are basically called pockets when you're doing CNC carving. So I cut a pocket here, and I cut a pocket here. And these are for a specific purpose. And I will show you now what that purpose is. So oh, hang on a second. Got one over here. So this is what I was going for when I made this, was 2 cups. These are, I guess my son told me these are, I'm not knowledgeable in these things. He told me they're souffle cups. I don't know. They're little souffle cups. Anyway, but they fit perfectly in those circles. And so they won't spill or move or anything. And then this is a 6-inch ceramic tile that I actually decorated. So I don't know. What do you think? I think it looks pretty cool. I'm just going to throw it out there. I think that looks cool. But I did this with alcohol inks, and I made a stamp pad. So I got this effect using a stamp pad, felt on a stamp pad. And I didn't have a felt stamp pad, so I made one. So I made this yesterday. I just took a piece of 2x4 and made a little stamper thing. And then I cut a piece of felt, and I have some like super tack spray adhesive, and spray adhesive this onto the bottom of the little block, and there you go. I got a stamp pad. And so that's what you basically can take the alcohol inks and dot them on here, and then you put them on and do various patterns, and it comes out looking really cool. So I did a couple of different ones. I've got this one right here that I did, so slightly different colors and stuff. I'm trying to get close so you can see what the pattern looks like. It's pretty cool looking though. I like the way it looks. Like I said, these are made to fit. This one should fit in here as well. Let's see if I take this one out. Yep, so it fits in there like that. These are not finished. The ceramic panels are not done because they have not been clear coated. I need to clear coat these before they're ready for prime time, just because like they're impervious to water and stuff because they're alcohol inks. But if I do get any sort of a solvent or anything on here, for whatever reason, it would make this run and do weird things, and we don't want that. So I need to clear coat them. There's 3 different types of clear coating to do on here. One of them actually seals the artwork in, and it's made for spraying over like watercolors and things like that, where it won't disturb the artwork itself. And then there's a clear coat that goes on top, and then there's a glaze that goes on top of that. So anyway, I've got 3 different things. And if you want to see this is where I started. This is my bad first attempt at like doing any of this stuff. So I just pulled them out and was like playing with them. And that looks like butt. I'm not going to lie. It looks bad, but this one had a little chip in it. And the nice thing is with this stuff and with the alcohol inks, I could take a paper towel with alcohol on it and wipe this down, and it's like a clean slate. So I can do designs over and over again on there if I want to. But anyway, I was just trying to be crafty, do something different. So the next step on these are to do a round over on the top profile right here. So this whole edge around the top is going to get a round over just so it's nice, and I mean it's really freaking sharp right now. But it's going to get a round over the edges a little bit. I'm going to put a handle profile in here so that it's easier to pick up. And last thing I'll do is probably do a little tiny 1/8 inch round over on the bottom, just to make it easier to touch and a little bit nicer to hold in the hands. I don't know. I'm thinking I'm going to put feet on it, just because that makes life a little easier. I've got little rubber feet that I usually use for doing cutting boards and stuff. Let me see if I can find rubber feet. I don't know where I put those things. They're around here somewhere. Yeah, here we go. So I've got rubber feet. These are white. I used these on the last cutting board I did, but so I've got these little rubber feet that look like this, and they're just, you know, they're not bad. I've got little stainless steel screws so they won't rust, and you just put 4 of those on and voila. And I am going to finish this. This is going to get finished. I'm going to use a salad bowl finish for that, probably thinned with mineral spirits, so it soaks nice and deep into the wood itself. And that's a really great finish for this kind of stuff. You can use that finish for cutting boards, and it's actually a really nice finish because it doesn't wear off like a mineral oil or like the mineral oil on wax. It doesn't wear off as quickly. It kind of seals the wood because it has a varnish, a lacquer or something. It doesn't have lacquer, but it has a varnish in it. And that actually, once it's cured, all that's gone. It's very food safe. And anyway, so we've got work to do on these, like I said, roundovers and stuff like that. I have 3 of these right now. So there's this one right here. This one's good. Now, I have one of them that needs some special love. And I'll show that one to you right now. So this one right here needs a little loving because it had knot holes. I don't know if you can see them. There's little knot holes all in here. And they're actually on the back too. So let me show you on the back. You can see the little knot holes. Hopefully you can see those. There you go. That's a good view. You can see these knot holes. If I point to these things right here, you can see all those knot holes. And there's on both strips, because this is the pith of that piece of wood, which is basically the exact center, and they kind of fell through. So I need to fill those. And I was kind of thinking that I would use, at first I was thinking I would just go ahead and use some black medium CA glue that I have. But because I have so many of them, I'm thinking that's probably not a good idea. I'm going to lower my saw blade so I don't actually cut and scratch these boards that are sitting over here. There we go. So I've got to mix up some CA glue, or not some CA glue. I've got to mix up some epoxy, put a little black dye in there, mix it up, and I'm going to put that inside. So that's the next thing. One other thing I finished this weekend was these. These are the little charcuterie cheese serving board things that I made for Christmas presents. And these things turned out really nice. I sanded these down to 1500, and they're actually shiny. It's hard for you to tell, but I can actually see reflections and stuff in here. It's that shiny. And then I finished these with Odie's oil. So here's the Odie's oil right here. Give you the close-up look here. That's the Odie's oil. So I used that. And then these turned out really nice. This one is, what is this? Quarter sawn white oak. And there's a Paducah in the middle. There's a couple of cherries, a couple of walnut strips. I did an inlay monogram on the CNC and then filled that with black epoxy. And it is really super smooth. And I have very different ones. Each one of these is different. So this one has a big walnut strip in there. That's a maple. This one actually has, what is that? That is sycamore, hickory. No, that's a maple on the edge there. Sapele, a couple of sapele strips on there. So I was using a lot of the offcuts that I had. So this is actually hickory right here. There's some more sapele, walnut. This is Jatoba, or Brazilian cherry. And there's a regular cherry and a walnut. And so I was trying to use up a lot of the wood that I had that were offcuts. And so I actually have 6 of these. There's one more that you can't see. But anyway, I got all of these done with the Odie's oil. Cover them all in the oil, let them sit for an hour, which is about the time you want to let that stuff sit. And then I buff them off. And that's the key to the Odie's, is you buff it off with a clean cotton towel. You don't use a buffer or anything else. A lot of people, there's people doing it wrong on the internet. I'm just going to say, I'm going to put these inside so they don't get messed up. I just wanted to show them off. But there are people doing it wrong because they're using like buffing machines and stuff. And if you want to know the right way to do it, just go to the Odie's Oil website, and there are multiple videos on how to actually apply this stuff. I'm going to turn this off. It's like 70 degrees in here now, which is nice. So anyway, yeah, there's videos on their website on how to actually apply it. It's really easy to do. It does use some elbow grease. There's a lot of, buffing it in with you use like a white Scotch-Brite towel, the really, really fine ones. And you buff it in with one of those, and then you let it sit for an hour, and then you have to buff it off with like a clean, well, this was clean until I used it to buff stuff off. But I just took an old bath towel, old cotton bath towel, and cut it into pieces. and use this to buff off, and they turn out, oh man, this is so nice. It's a really nice finish, and it's a new one for me. I just started using it recently, and I'm very impressed. It's working really well. So I will probably continue to use that for the time being. I don't really need this open anymore. I'm not going to be doing any more carving on this stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and close this so you can see my logo in the background. There we go. So, all right, so now I need to figure out where I am and what I need to do. And I'm going to continue working on these because I do need to do some more work. They've been sanded to 120. I think that was the last grit that I used here. Let me see here. Yeah, 120. By the way, I have to say, I don't have a drum sander. And if I was doing cutting boards, end grain cutting boards on a full-time basis, like if that was my gig, I would have a drum sander because that just makes life oh so much easier. I used to have one, it was a small one, and it just kept, my power was not good enough to use. I think I probably needed like a 30 amp breaker. I had a 15 amp breakers, and it kept popping fuses and stuff. So I got rid of that. And maybe one day when I upgrade my power in my shop, I will get another one, because if you're doing any sort of end grain stuff, leveling that is really hard. There's basically a few ways to do it. Using a hand plane is kind of out of the question. I mean, you can, but it has to be super sharp, and you're cutting end grain, and you can catch it and everything else. You can't use a planer. I mean, you might be able to use one if you have like a helical head in there where the teeth are angled and they're using the carbide cutting bits at an angle. That might work, but what happens on a planer is I've got straight blades, so those straight blades are running around like this, and you're feeding that straight grain right into those blades, and they just kind of grab and phew. I've shot a board out of the back of my planer like it was a rocket ship. It was ugly. Didn't put a hole in the wall, but it tried to. So yeah, you can't really send end grain stuff through a planer. It's very dangerous to do. If you do, sometimes you can glue boards onto the side and little running boards, which will help a little bit, but I've given up on ever trying to use that in there. Wobbler JW, welcome to the live stream. What was I? Oh yeah, so you can try to use a planer, but that's really not a good idea for flattening these boards. You can also use hand planes, but like I said, once again, your planes have to be super, super, super sharp. And basically, you know, getting it flat and even is a lot of work that way. And I don't like to hand plane end grain ever. And you also get a chance of, like, whenever you get to an edge and you're running a plane near an edge, you have a lot of chances of knocking pieces off, chipping it out, and doing things like that. So got to be really careful on this end grain stuff. The other ways, a drum sander, like I said, is a great way of doing it. But if you don't have a drum sander, that's kind of off the table. I have flattened these using a CNC machine. My CNC, I have a flattening bit for doing slabs and stuff like that. And it works pretty well, but it leaves lines in there. They're pretty easy to sand out. But I have flattened using my CNC machine before. I did not do that with these, because the other method is to just use a sander. And you can use like a regular orbital sander, which would take you a long time. I actually went with my big new Bosch here, and this thing has a gear-driven mode. They call it turbo mode, with a 60 grit pad on here, and it was fantastic. I loved it. It was great. And it got it pretty flat, I will say. I put it on my cast iron table, and I had no tipping or wobbling at all. So it did a great job, and I'm really happy with that. I mean, it takes a while. It took about 10 minutes to get the whole surface flat, 10 minutes on each side, which if you've ever sanded end grain, that's not very long. So, so I did a 60 grit to start with, then I did an 80 grit, and then I cut all the pockets in here with the CNC machine, and then I went to a 120 grit. So I've sanded this to 120. I'm probably only going to take it to 150. So I might go 150 on these. Yeah, I'll do 150 on it, and that will be the last of this. You don't really need to sand this stuff too much. I mean, it's so super smooth. That's the thing about end grain. You kind of hit a point of little return as you go up in the grits. So you can keep trying to sand this stuff finer and finer, but like I said, honestly, you get to a point where it's not really worth it. It's so super smooth at 120 that going finer really doesn't pay any dividends. And so I think I'm going to probably stop at 150, and that's where I will be applying finish on this thing, which the finish is really easy. To start with, though, I think what I'm going to do is get this out of the way, and I think I'm going to try to do some roundovers on these first because they need roundovers. And I'm going to do two of them. I'm going to do a 1/4 inch roundover on the top and then an 1/8 inch roundover on the bottom. I'm going to set up my 1/4 inch first. And I don't use a fence or anything for this. I just kind of do it. But I do have a router table, and the router table makes life a lot easier. Let me set a camera up over here so you can see this. I think my camera is kind of pointed at the table saw, not at the router table right now. So I'm going to zoom into the router table a little bit. And that way it gets you a little bit easier, better view of what I'm doing. And is that where I want to be? Yep. Okay, so there's my router table. I'm going to move my fence back a little bit. Just makes life a little easier for you to see. There we go. All right. Don't need that. Don't need this. I've got lots of stuff going on, so I've got things kind of all over the place. So what I need to do is take this top off of here. So I just have my flat plate on here, just to kind of make it a work surface. And let me get it off of here. This one's a pain in the rear. Hang on a second. There we go. I'm not going to put one on until I figure out the dimension I need. I'm going to go grab my router bit though. See if I can find my 1/4 inch roundover. There we go. All right, so I've got just a regular 1/4 inch roundover bit. My 1/8 inch is actually installed. I could do the 1/8 inch now, but I want to try the 1/4 inch first and see what that looks like. So I'm just going to raise this all the way up. The nice thing about this router, this is a Triton router in here, which is a plunge router, but it's made to actually be, has features so you can mount it under a table. This actually plate is made by Craig to fit this particular router. And it actually, when you raise it up, it locks it in place. So there's no buttons you have to hold. You don't have to use 2 wrenches to take your bits out. It's really very easy. It comes with this handle to raise and lower it. So that's why I bought this particular one, was to fit in this table right here. So I didn't need a really expensive lift system or to go under the table and have to try to manually push a router up and lock it in place, which if you've ever tried to do that, it's not fun. All right. Get this locked in. Let me get a plate. I think that'll fit that one. This one will, nope. Next up. I was close. Close. So I have a whole set of these things at different diameters, and that one's going to fit. So I have to lower it down because the collet hits until it gets down to where it needs to be. All right. A little bit more. Down a little bit more. There we go. Lock that in place. Now I need a piece of wood with a straight edge so that I can line up my corner here so that it slides under the board. I don't want that hitting the side because it'll leave a line in there. I just want a nice smooth round over. So when this starts to slide over top of that, I will know that, let me find a piece of wood that, there we go. There we go. So as soon as it slides over top of that little curve, I know that I've got it set pretty well. And I can do a test on a piece of scrap. Lord knows I have enough scrap in my shop here. Let me find a good scrap piece. This will work. I think that's pretty flat. Yep. And that should work. This has a bearing on there, so it'll ride right against the bearing and be fine. Now, the one thing I want to pay attention to as I'm doing these routes, I'll do a test route on here just to make sure that the height is set right. But the one thing I do want to do, I think, is use a backer board for my route. So this is to route the top of the board. And I want to use a backer board so that when I'm coming off of this end of the cut, everything in here is no problem. Because this is all this wood is supporting each other. So as you're running through, all of this wood's supporting. But when you get to this edge, there's nothing supporting the wood on this side. And you get potential for blowout. Especially depending on which way the grain is running. This way is not too bad. The grain's running this way. But as I get to some of these walnut pieces that are highly suspect, this one in particular, this one's very suspect right here. Because it already broke off once and I've had to glue it back on. This is my test board, by the way. So if this one gets screwed up, that's why I test everything on here. You can see where, I don't know if you can see that. There's a little circle right here where I actually started milling and I noticed that I had my project set in the wrong position. I was like, oh, well, that's the way it should be. So this is a test board. This one will end up in my kitchen. I don't really care about this one. But what I do want to do is put a backer board on here. And that is really just going to consist of a block of wood. Let me find one here. I don't need a big block, just something that I can put there. Oh, perfect. So these are offcuts from this project. And I will use one of these. And what I'll do is I'll put this on the end. Okay, there we go. I'll put it on the end like this. And I'm going to get a clamp and clamp it to the side. And that way, as this bit is climbing through this cut, it's going to basically be supported by this offcut right here and keep this wood from chipping out. That is the plan. So let me grab some power for this. I think my power is still plugged into the CNC machine. It is. But my CNC actually has a router, a DeWalt router that does the cutting. All right. By the way, I actually have headphones that I'm connected, so if you guys jump in the chat and say anything, I should be able to actually hear you because I've got text to speech. So I should be able to hear any comments and be able to actually respond to them, which is something I haven't been able to do before. So I'm kind of excited about that if it works. Now, how am I going to clamp this on here? That's always the question. I need a long clamp that will reach across here, and I don't know that I have one. Oh, just a little short. All right. What am I going to do here? I need to get, I got to go over here and grab a long clamp. Okay, I don't use these very often. But you know what? You do what you got to do. So I just got to make sure that my clamp is not going to interfere with that. There we go. All right, I'm just clamping this on there really tight so that this board is going to stay here. And like I said, just provide some support. I'm going to do a little test using this. I'm just going to run it through there. The blade on the router is spinning this way. So you kind of want to enter into the cut, kind of do a climb cut. You be careful you don't catch end grain. So we're just going to come off this way. But this is just a test. Let me fire this up and let's see what happens. Oh, you know what else I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my dust thing and put it over here just to kind of collect up some. I don't have a lot of dust collection hooked up to my router. Probably should, but I don't. If I'm using my fence, I do, but I don't. Putting my fence up is kind of a pain in the rear. I only use it for specific things. All right, let me do a little test cut here. Let's see what this looks like. Okay, and that did exactly what we wanted to do. I don't know if you can see the profile there, but I'll come and zoom. So you can see that little rounded profile right here, and it's nice and smooth. And I'm not getting any harsh line where the edge of the blade is touching, and that's really what I wanted to make sure. So now what I can do is just make this first cut, make sure this clamp doesn't hit anything. I'm gonna move these for right now. Hang on a second. I don't want these. I normally store clamps on the end here, but I don't want them hitting this clamp as I'm pulling it across. All right, sketchy first cut on here. Let's do one. I just want to check that first side. Let's see what it looks like. See how we did. Ah! But actually that worked out really well. It took off, but it did not. See, I actually got a tiny bit of chip out right here on the edge. This is the worst walnut I've ever had. It's just flaky and chippy and kind of weird stuff. But anyway, like I said, this is for my kitchen, so I'm not really worried about it. I spent a little time in the maple area as I was entering in, and maple burns like crazy. That's just the way it is. All right, I'm going to use the other side to do this one. I don't think I would get any catastrophic failures from this bit. It's not a really aggressive bit, but I don't want to take that chance. So I'm just going to keep doing this, and hopefully that will solve any problems I have. I mean, normally I would just zip around the corners and be done with this, and it would take no time, but because I'm having to clamp a support beam on here, it does that. But I'm getting a really nice rounded profile on these corners. I'll sand these down. I mean, they feel really rough because it's end grain and it's been cut. So I will go back over these and just kind of hand sand these out so that they smooth. But that's exactly what I was going for, was something, just a nice little profile on the edge here. I'm going to use a larger bit. Do I have it over here? I've got a larger bit that I'm going to use for cutting the handles in there. What did I do with that bit? I'm just carrying bits around my shop and setting them down willy-nilly and not knowing where they are. Now I have to find that thing. Anyway, I need to find another scrap of wood though, because I've used the two good sides on this one. And I need them to actually have straight, flat sides so that I can lock these in. That will work. Of course, I need to flip it over. That'd be probably the better thing to do. All right, let me cut this one right here. Like I said, these walnut ones are the ones I'm really worried about because they seem to be the weakest link in the chain here. I'm not, like I said, I don't know what's up with this walnut wood that I bought, but I don't know if it's where the cut came from, where, you know, from the tree, but it's not the most stable of wood. All right. One more to go, and then this one will have all the top round over done. If I can use this again, I'd like to. Let's see, I think it has a flat edge here. So I need to do this one right here. Actually, you know what? I don't need one for here because this is already rounded. So it shouldn't really be any wood to cut there. So I'm just going to do this one straight on through. Those are famous last words, folks. Watch what happens as I screw myself up here. All right, I actually did not sabotage myself. That actually worked out, so hooray. Really wish I knew where that bit was because it's, I wanted to do that because I just want to take this one. I have two others that I want to do. Oh, here it is. But I don't want to do them all like and bore you with the same thing over and over again. So here's the roundover bit I'm going to use for the handle. This is going to be a little tricky. I might actually get my, I think I'm going to get my fence, my router fence for this because I'm going to set up stop blocks so that I can basically lock in the amount of relief I'm cutting in here for the handles on each side. Let me clean this off real quick. Okay, before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and switch this out. Let me unplug because I don't like changing bits when I'm plugged in. I'm going to switch this out. I'm going to put that 1/8 inch in. We're going to clean up the bottom. And then the last thing I'm going to do is get the router fence out. It's big and it's a pain in the rear, so I'll do that last. But we'll get the router fence out and we'll set that up. We'll set some stop blocks to control the amount of, okay. I don't know why this is being like this right now, but come out. It's unlocked. There we go. We'll set up stop blocks, and that way it gives me a way to enter the cut, move over, and pull out of the cut, and have a predetermined distance. I can flip it around, do the same thing on the other side, and it keeps that handle basically in the same place and the same depth and everything else as I'm going through the wood. Okay, raise this up. How's everybody doing today? Friday. Hopefully, hopefully fun things are to come for the weekend. Unless you're retired like me and then every day is a weekend. Or reversely, none of the days are weekends. Because they're all pretty much the same to me. So sometimes I'm in the shop. Sometimes I'm not in the shop. Although I try to be here on my stream pretty consistently. Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. This has a 1/2 inch shaft on there, so I have to change the collet out to a 1/2 inch collet, which is nice. I prefer a 1/2 inch collet. Oh wait, I'm sorry. Just backtracking here. I said we were going to do the 1/8 inch first, didn't I? Yes, I did. Getting ahead of myself. All right, here's my 1/8 inch bit. This is my favorite bit. I love using this 1/8 inch roundover bit on pretty much every project that has a straight edge. I will use this to just it gives a nice even, I mean, you can use sandpaper to round over an edge, but it's not consistent. This gives you a consistent uniform roundover that's really, really slight, but you can go over and sand it with like some 400 and just smooth the edges and stuff after you've used this. But this thing is just a fantastic bit. I love this thing, and I use it pretty much on, like I said, anything that has corners and sharp edges, I will use this bit. I think this one goes around this one. Actually, I think I can use the small one. Let's see. No, I can't. I've tried that before. Definitely this one. But yeah, so this is a fantastic little bit. And I could do this in a hand router. It's so easy. It makes minimal mess. It's a great little bit to use. I'm going to set this one up so that, like I said, I just set this so that the edge of the wood is just sliding over and up onto the rounded part. So it'll hit, and as soon as it passes over that, I know that I'm in a good spot. And then I'll do a test cut, usually, just to make sure that I'm not getting any edge lines from the edge of the router bit. We'll put this over here. I've got a little magnet tray over here. It's kind of nice. Keep bits and stuff in there. All right, let me set this out of the way. Just trying to keep my stuff organized and not hurt myself here. All right, so I'm gonna just test this real quick on this piece of wood, and then we will do the whole top surface before we do those handles in the side. All right, I mean, I don't even know if you can even see that round over. It's so slight. It's just a tiny, tiny little round over, but here's a nice sharp edge. And then that round over, it just gives a nice little buttery smooth profile to it. You can't go wrong with an 1/8 inch round over, and it doesn't really damage your wood in any way. It's one of the kindest little things because it's so easy to use and does not, I've never had any tear out from this bit at all. I should probably clean the bit just to clean off any muck and gunk. But yeah, it's really super easy to use. So I'm just going to use that, run all the way around the bottom. Just takes a minute. This one I don't have to put supports on either. No chance of tear out on this one. Famous last words. That's it. That's all you do. Just run it around that quick and you get this nice, it basically, I don't know if you can see it on there, but it just gives a little shadow line underneath too. So you can see it's just not like it's part of this table. It breaks that, visually breaks that edge and gives you just a little bit of a shadow line, which is really super nice. If you do have something that sets on a flat surface, it's nice to have something that breaks the shadow line on there. And then, like I said, I will probably get something like some nice, what is this, like 320? This is 220. I could do this too. And just kind of break this over a little bit and smooth this out. I could just do this by hand too. And all I'm doing is kind of taming that cut fibers from the end grain, because they do get, I mean, just that little bit that I just did is enough to really make it feel smooth now. And I just don't want any hard lines. So I would probably address anywhere where this kind of maybe left a little bit of a line as it went across, just to kind of make it a nice, smooth, even transition. And this has only been sanded to 120, so I'm using 220. So certainly good. Now, oh, the only other thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna use this on the edge too. Let me run it through the corners here and just break those as well. I mean, this is 1 1/4 inches thick, so running it on the edge like that is, I can get it pretty stable. And like I said, this thing doesn't tear or pull or try to yank it out of your hands or anything, so it's pretty reasonable. I'm just kind of cleaning up a little bit of this ingrained fuzziness that came from that 1/4 inch round over bit, and then just rounding those corners just a hair. But this just kind of gives everything a nice finished look to it. And then we'll, a little bit of the burn marks on here, I think I can get those off with this. Like I said, maple's notorious for burning. Maple and cherry are two that like to burn. If you leave the bit in one place for, like, it seems like a fraction of a second, you're going to get a little bit of burn. which is not that big a deal to get rid of. You can sand it off, but they are notorious for burning. And all I'm doing is just smoothing that wood right on that corner. And then, like I said, I will hit this again with some 150 on the top, and that will be more than enough to make this feel really, really smooth. I will probably use my smaller sander. I'm not going to use the big beastie sander because there's no reason to. It's just, I'm going to use the 5-inch sanding disc, and I'm not going to worry about sanding inside the pockets here because stuff goes in there. So when you have a cup set in there or a, ceramic tile, there's no reason to have that sanded. It'll get finished, but it's pretty smooth. I mean, right off of the CNC machine, it's pretty smooth. So yeah, not gonna worry about sanding those. Okay, so we've done the little roundovers. And like I said, I'm gonna put this in my hand. Usually on the 1/8-inch roundover, I would just take it in my hand and just kind of make sure that it's smoothed out a little bit, especially if there's an end grain. And now I have to set my fence up. I'm stalling. I don't want to set my fence up. Kind of a pain in the butt. I made my fence myself, so it's good, but it's big and bulky. I made it out of melamine, like 3/4-inch melamine, which I don't know if you've ever used any 3/4-inch melamine. That's what my table's made out of. I mean, it's really nice, but a little bulky. So anyway, I'm just smoothing these a little bit. That's all I'm doing. And then just smoothing out those corners a little bit. All right, the whole thing feels really nice now. No sharp edges, no sharp corners. Nice for more than that. All right, let me go grab this big behemoth of a fence, and we're gonna need to make some room. It basically fits over the top of, my table saw fence. So I've got to try to find it in here. Oh man, it's kind of crammed in back here. I don't know if I can get to this or not. Hello, come on. Oh, there we go. All right. Oh, it's kind of hidden behind my streaming computer here. It's a little dusty, dirty. Oh, this thing is so heavy. I know, it sounds like a very Herculean effort. Here's my fence. So this thing is huge, as you can see. Basically, just a box. It has this section right here, which fits over the top of this fence. And then this section up here is where the cuts go. And then it has a little air suction hose. So I can put the air on here. The one thing I do need to do, though, is take all the stuff off of my fence that would not let this sit flat. I think that's it. Excuse me. The frog in the throat this morning. 11:54. Oh, I wonder if my son went to work. That's always the big question. I don't see his car, so yes, he did. That's awesome. All right, let me see if I can get this on here. And like that. And you can see where this just basically, there's an opening there, and then I can move this back and forth, and then I lock it in. And typically what I will do is I will lock this because it slides on here. So I lock this with some clamps. I'll just put a clamp on here, and it kind of squeezes against the fence. You can't see that, can you? If I put it on this side, you can see. So I'll put it on here, squeeze it in, and then it will, when I get both sides done, it'll lock it in. I have a little wedge here. I need to remake this thing and make it a little bit smarter. Actually, what I need to do is do a full up redo of this table and put slots in there and make a real honest to God one. I just haven't gotten around to it. But anyway, let me line this up, and then I'm gonna wedge this. I've got a little wedge, put it in here, and then I'm gonna clamp this down. Let me go get a good clamp for doing that. A nice solid clamp. And then I'm gonna use stop blocks set up on, I'm going to set stop blocks up on this surface right here that will keep us, by us I mean me, from, get that lined up. That looks pretty good. Okay. And let me make sure that this is not going to slide now. That's the big thing, is you do not want this fence to slide. There we go. So it's not going to slide now. I can move it back and forth, but I don't want it to slide because that will, there we go. That will, if I put stop blocks in and I don't set it so that it doesn't slide, the stop blocks are kind of useless. Alrighty, let's see what we need to do here. So first I'm going to change this bit out, because this is not the bit we're going to use. We're going to use that large roundover bit, or I'm sorry, cove bit. This is a cove bit, is what they call that. So it's pretty big. I am not going to take one big cut at once. I'm going to make small cuts and then incrementally raise the bit up until I've got it to the depth that I want. And that should prevent me from getting any big tear out or anything like that. Optimal should. So we have to remove this collet. You can't see me. Here we go. So I'm going to remove this collet right here. Take this bit out, put it back over here. And then we're going to put in the 1/2-inch collet. Because like I said, this is a 1/2-inch shaft on here. I really enjoy using the bits with the 1/2-inch shaft. They're just so stout, sturdy, but very minimal vibration with the larger, thicker shaft on these. So which is one of the reasons why I like using them. Especially if it's a large bit or if you're removing a lot of stock. With a 1/4-inch shaft, you can get more vibration in the tool itself, which doesn't necessarily give you a cleaner cut. So the larger, thicker shaft on here just provides more support to the cutting edges, keeps the vibrations down really low. Now I'm going to lower this thing down a lot. And then, well, I got to do two things. First, I got to get a plate that fits over this. So let's find the right plate. Let's see which one looks appropriate for this bit. I don't think that's it. Let me grab a couple of them here. I'm going to guess it's this one. I guessed right. And then what I need to do is figure out where the edges are, right? So I need to see how far over this thing cuts from one end to the other so that I can use that measurement and then figure out how far over my stop blocks need to be to provide the width of cut that I want. I don't want something really huge. I think I'm only looking at, I mean, if you take my big beefy hand right here, I mean, it's that 3.5, so 4 inches worth of cut would be fine. And I need that to be centered on here. So let's see. We're going to cut into this side of the board because this is the side. And I need to figure out where these are going to line up. So I'm going to get my centering ruler. I have a ruler called a centering ruler. Right here. So basically it has a 0 mark. It's kind of cool. It's got a 0 mark in the middle, and then you can count out evenly inch marks all the way to the side. So if I take this right here and put my 0 mark on this piece of wood right here in the middle, where that line is, because that should be a 0. I think that was where that was centered. And yeah, if I look on here, these are about equidistant. So what I need to do is find out where 2 inches is on here. And then I will use those marks as my reference points for how far I want to use, how far I want to line up those marks from here. So what I will do now is get my square, and we can line up I'm going to make this line go on here so I can see this line in the front here. And then I'm going to see the line over on this side. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing right here. I just carried those lines over. So now I have basically from here to here, I can see those lines, and then I can use this as a way of figuring out where that line is going to match up on my fence. So I'm just trying to get things out of the way that I don't need and are going to impede me from doing what I'm doing here. There we go. All right. So if I slide this all the way across, I need to see where does this need to go to. So I'm going to take this, kind of hard to see. I'm going to take this and I'm going to, let's see, can I do it with this camera? Let me see if I can give you a better view with this camera right here. If you can see what I'm doing. Oh, you just miss it. You just can't see it. It's just a little high. Anyway, actually I can get a longer one. Doesn't matter. I've got the edge of the bit right here. I'm measuring how far over. If I've got that bit, I can see exactly what the widest point of that cut's going to be. So if that blade is cutting this way, I want this far edge here and this far edge here. Those are my references. So as I slide my wood across and I want that cut to stop at that far edge there, and as it's going this way, I want that wood to stop as it hits that edge. So all I'm going to do is figure out from here where that actually intersects with that cutting blade, and then that will be my far stop here. So this is the left edge, and all I'm going to do is take my pencil and I'm going to mark this side right here because that's where my stop needs to be. And these don't need to be exact. I'm just trying to keep it close. So I'm going to take this and put it on the other side, run it into that blade at the far side where it's going to be the cutting edge. It's going to cut to that edge. I'm going to move it over to this way and see where that one lines up. And that is right here. So I'm going to put a mark right here. And that's where I want this stop block to be. So I've got my line set for, I need a stop block that comes here and here. So I'm going to move this forward now. And I can control how deep that cut goes. And then I can set my stop blocks up. So I'm just going to get some wood, just some regular blocks of wood here. And I'm going to use them as my stop blocks. And I'm going to set those against those little marks that I made. And then I will just clamp them in place. And that will allow me to control. I'm going to do this on this side. There's no reason to do it on this side. That'll allow me to control the amount of side-to-side motion I can get. So there's one. Now the benefit of running this is that I basically have dust collection here. So it will be a little neater. It's a little cleaner. All right, let me get this one right here. I'm going to get a better block because I use this one for roundovers and it has some edges that are not as nice as I would like. I just want a nice square. Of course, I've used them all for roundovers. Oh, this is a big beefy piece right here. This is going to be that's a stop block. Look at that bad boy. That's a stop block. All right, I'm going to clamp this one in place. Okay, so the thought process here is that I take my board, I run it to the right side, plunge it in, slide it across, hit the stop block here, pull it back out. That's it. And then I will keep raising the bit until the depth of the cove is exactly where I want it to be. It will only go so far because it has a bearing on top, so it won't plunge too deep into the material because that bearing will hit the side. So as long as the bearing's hitting the side, we're good. But I would like it to line up so that it is a little closer to the edge here. So hang on just a second. Usually what I will do is get a steel rule or something and line up that bearing with the edge of the fence, just so that as I'm sliding across, it should be a nice smooth run. So let me, I'm gonna have to lower the bit down a little bit just to do this, and then I'll raise it back up. But I just want to get that bearing so that it is flush with the front of this. So I will move this, I'm gonna lower this down. There we go. Now I can move the fence and adjust it until it just almost there. The bearing should turn, but I should see almost no separation from the edge of the table. I mean, I have like maybe a 64th right now. Try that. That's pretty perfect right there. I'm gonna lock that in. And as usual, my fence moves just a hair when I lock it down, so. Okay, we're in good shape. And like I said, I can just take small cuts here and raise that up each time and get it to the depth that I want. Right now, it's going to take a very minimal cut, but we will come in, I will just put it in, plunge it, move it over, easy peasy. I will take my dust collection and put it up top here because now it's actually going to be pretty effective. I wish I had a better camera angle for you. I really don't, unfortunately, because of where my camera placements are, that I really can't get a better view. I might be, let me see here. Let's see what the camera 4 looks like here. Not much better. Not much better. I think I like camera 3 better. It's a little tighter. All right. Because this is a large bit, I'm going to slow the speed down a little bit. It does tend to help. But let's go ahead and make this first pass, and we're going to do both sides, and then I'll raise it up a little bit. Okay, so that was actually pretty good. I do want this to be a little higher in here. So I'm going to raise this up. And as I go higher, it's also going to go deeper because I'm just getting the front edge of that cove. As I get to the rest of the cove, it'll actually be a little bit deeper in here. I think it's about a ½ inch deep. Let me see how deep that actually goes here. So it goes, yeah, it's actually about a ½ inch deep that cove will go. But I'm just going to raise it up just a little bit, and then we'll do another pass. So let's see. That's probably good. And just kind of keep repeating the process here. Oh, I hate it when that happens. There needs to be a screw on this thing. I don't know why they didn't put a screw on here. It's kind of weird. On this particular handle thing, it doesn't have a screw. It just kind of press fits in there, but it pops loose every now and then. So anyway, Brighton, if you're listening, put a screw in the top of this for me. All right, let me line these up again, make sure we're going to cut the right side, and we can do this again. right, and I'm gonna just raise it up a bit more because it's still a little, for me, it's a little shallow. I want to be able to have it deep enough so my fingers slide all the way underneath, and it's just a little shallow still. So I'm gonna keep raising it up. Until I get it where I want it. Make another pass. But the nice thing is you can kind of work your way into these. You don't have to take it all at once. You can just gradually sneak up onto that measurement that you want. Getting closer now. I still not quite there, but it is getting closer. I am going to get the sandpaper and just knock the fuzz off the edge, just so that it tracks cleanly. And I did get a little chippy there. I just want to make sure that the little fuzz is not going to interfere with it running straight across that bearing. So I'm just going to remove the fuzz on the edge here. But that's actually working really well. So, I mean, you can see setting this up is kind of a pain in the rear, but, you know, there's certain times when, you know, the results are worth the effort. This is one of those times. Let me see what I'm going to come up here a little bit more. All right, that should be enough. I'm thinking that's going to be high enough, but let's, you know, there's one way to find out. Let's do it. All right. I got big beefy fingers, so I just want to make sure that that was going to be good. But now, great little handle on the side. I mean, it does need to be cleaned up. It's got, I mean, when you're cutting edge grain on the side with a router bit, you're going to get tear out. I mean, it just happens. But I will use a non-aggressive sandpaper like a 200 and really try to just clean those edges off like this, and then get any little fuzzies that it left off of there. And then I will probably, by hand, I'll just come in here and get the sandpaper in there and clean that off a little bit. But I'm just breaking those edges and getting the fuzzes off of them. But that actually turned out pretty nice. I'm not unhappy with those handles at all. That's what it is. And you can use that for any sort of cutting board or whatever that you're making. And the thing is, you don't need a router table. You could just get your regular router and clamp a couple of pieces of wood on each side and then run into those and come over and come back out. The router table just makes it a little bit easier, that's all. I mean, it's nice and clean and neat, but actually this cut right here, I'm gonna run it through one more time. It's got a little bit of I think it hit a scrap of something. Let me see if I can get this cut to clean up just a little bit. There we go. That's better. I don't know what it was. It was just like something, maybe it was like I said, the wood fibers, sometimes they don't let it run straight across, and it may have a little wood fiber bumped into the bearing and made it kick out a little bit, so you could feel that. But now it's nice and smooth in there. So no worries. So this is basically what I would do to all of these is get these cleaned up like this. Now this one actually has a couple of, if you were here earlier, you saw that I showed that it had some holes from the pith. This one has them in the bottom. I'm not worried about those. They're not in the top. There are some cracks up here. And what I might do is just fill this crack right here with some black CA glue. And this one right here with some black CA glue. This is not a cutting board. That's the thing you need to know. This, it looks like a cutting board. It's not a cutting board. This is a serving board. So you're going to be setting things on top of here. I've got the little cups of these that are going to go on top. And there's a little ceramic plate that is going to go, if I can get it out of here, little ceramic plates going in here. So it's this thing right here, right? I'll show you right here. So this is a serving tray board thing. This is not a cutting board. So you're not going to be cutting things on here. So I'm not too worried about, you know, oh, bacteria and stuff should get down in there. Hopefully you're not using this as a cutting board. Hopefully you're using it as a lovely, and look, you can tilt it and the cups don't fall. And the little plate doesn't fall. Isn't that cool? Because they got holes that they fit into. All right. But now that I have that done, I can move on to the last part. So I might use, I'm just, you know, I've got that one little crack that's kind of bothering me. So I think I'm going to use a little bit of black CA glue just to fill it up. We'll hit it with the accelerator, and that should have it dry down pretty quickly. But the black CA glue is really nice for filling in little areas that you just, you know, especially in walnut, which is where these cracks are. There's one right on this edge right here. There's one in here, a little pith hole right here, a little one right here, maybe a little one right here. Let me go ahead and grab my black CA glue. And this is a medium. It's a medium thick. So it's more like an epoxy almost than a CA glue. Let me grab, I'm going to get a pin, like a small little pin, because I'm going to put my camera down here so you can see what I'm doing. All right. And I'm going to put this out of the way. By the way, the little centering ruler is a luxury. Obviously, you could do what I did without a centering ruler from Woodpecker, but dang, if it isn't cool and makes life a lot easier. I got it for doing guitar stuff because you deal with center lines on guitars a lot to keep things where they're supposed to be. Not so much in my other woodworking, but that's why I bought it. Okay, I'm going to go and put a dot in here. Now, this is the hard one because I have to be able to sand this flat. So I'm just using a little bit in here. And I'm going to use the pin to make sure that it gets down into the surface there. So I'm going to poke it down inside there with this pin to make sure that it's just not resting on the surface. I want it to get down inside of the hole here to the point where it's going to at least cover the top like that. And then I'm just going to spray it like that. And I'm going to do this for a couple of these cracks, but the pen is nice because it helps me to get it. A lot of times if you put this stuff on, it basically just will sit on the surface unless you are working it down inside. So I'm going to use this right here. And the thing is, I'm going to do another sanding on this. So that's how I'm like not worried about putting this stuff on here right now, because I still have to do a final sanding on here. But I am going to work this down into the crack so that when I sand it off, it won't just be on the surface and the crack will open up again. All right. But just kind of trying to keep, you know, any of this stuff from creating voids where stuff can gather. Let's spray this one. The activator is really great. Like I can take my finger on the top of this stuff and, well, this is thick, but typically once you put the activator on here, it basically hardens that CA glue, and you can move on with your life. Is there a little thing right? There's a little one right here on top. I'm gonna go ahead and hit this one. Just a teeny little void right here. And the nice thing is when you put finish on walnut, it gets dark. So this stuff blends in a lot more. Try to get that worked in here. And then lastly is this little crack in here. I'm going to go ahead and try to put a little bit in here. I don't need a lot, but the problem is getting this stuff sanded inside these pockets right here is not the easiest thing either. But let me go ahead and get the pin here and work this into that crack. So I would say if you're going to be filling pinholes, little areas and voids and stuff, to use a pin or a toothpick or something that you can actually work the stuff down into the little openings, because otherwise it'll just it'll basically make a little air pocket underneath and you won't be sealing or getting it inside. So that's why, especially with the thicker stuff. There we go. All right, I'm going to wipe this off. I wish I had a towel. Use one of these. I don't want my pin covered in CA glue if I can help it. I just keep this on my tray. You know, having a little straight pin is handy in your shop. You wouldn't think it, but it comes in handy a lot. All right, I'm just going to spray that one. And that one's sprayed. I'm going to spray these again just to make sure that they're curing. And then what we're going to do is give this a couple minutes, and then we will we're going to go ahead and sand these areas down. This is a little thick right there. The stuff inside here I don't have to worry about. The only thing I really care about sanding is the stuff like this one and this one over here, because they, this one and this one are on the surface, and that's what's going to get the final sanding. And I think I'm going to use my small palm sander for this. I'm going to sand this at 150. I'm going to see if I have any, do I have any 150 out here? That's 320. Don't need 320. Just need 150. Let me find some 150 in my little storage drawer over here. Ooh, I'm almost out of 150. I only have like 4 sheets left. I'm going to have to go buy some of that. All right. I use 150 probably. 120 and 150, I think I use more than any other sandpapers in my shop. Because every project gets sanded to 120 and 150. I may or may not start at 80, but I definitely go 120 and 150. So I go through those the most. And let me get this on here. And then I have to hook the dust collection up on here, which is fine. I have to unhook it from my large sander. So I've got this really cool little mini hose here from Rockler. Let me go back to this camp. So I've got this hose right here from Rockler, and it's really nice and handy, but it kind of broke here, and then the rubber thing kind of lost its rubber elasticity kind of thing, but it still works. I needed to order another one. But it's really handy because usually the hoses and stuff that you have from a dust collector are not adequately sized. They're usually oversized and don't fit on your smaller dust collector. So this is my, this is from a Rigid vacuum right here. And you can see this, it just, I mean, it kind of on there, but it's not tight, and it would just fall off. It wouldn't create a good vacuum seal, which is why this with the little rubber hose ends on here, and there's 2 of them. There's actually a small hose end and a larger hose end. They work really well, and you can connect these into your dust collector. So what I do is I actually use a hose clamp and tighten the hose clamp down on here to keep this from slipping off. And that tends to work in my situation. kind of a pain when you're switching between tools, but you know, you do what you got to do. On the other end of this hose is another, it's kind of nice. It has a, it's a nice long hose, but it has a little rotating piece on here so it doesn't get bound and kinked or anything. But then what I did was I attached this little rubber, it's a pipe fitting, they're rubber pipe fittings. So this is a 1.5 inch to 2 inch adapter. And so this right here fits perfectly on that, and it just pops in like that. So that's how I make my connection. And I have those little rubber hose couplers on all my tools. I've got it, well, do I have one? Yeah, I've got one on my table saw. I have one on my crosscut saw. I have one on my planer. I don't need one on my bandsaw, but pretty much most of my tools, I have one on my spindle sander. I put these on here because it just makes it easy. I just slide that in. It's a nice fit. I do have a clamp on there, so if I clamp it down a little bit, I can get a little bit more of a fit if I need it, but I almost never do. Anyway, all right, let's see if this feels dry enough. Feels like it is. So I'm going to go ahead and hit this with a pencil, which is usually what I do. Is take a pencil and pencil mark the surface, and that lets me know A, that I've sanded that spot, but B, that I've sanded it enough that I can remove that pencil, which means it's probably enough that I don't need to do any more sanding. All right, I know sanding's boring, but you know what? It's a necessary evil. So pardon me while I just sand this. Now this is to 120, 150 should go pretty quick. It really should, but let's find out.
After I plug it in. I'm just grabbing these a little bit. While I'm at it,
So as long as I'm here, while I'm at it, I'm just going to sand the bottom too, just because I like them to be equally sanded. Now this one actually does have some holes in the bottom, the pith holes. I'm not filling these on this side because honestly, it's not worth my effort because it's the bottom, so I don't really care. And this one is also for me. If I was going to be selling this or whatever, I would fill those, but I'm not, so I'm not going to worry about them. That seems to be pretty adequate for that. The only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find my little sanding pad here. Where did I put that? Right here. This has some 220 on here. I'm going to just work the inside of this handle a little bit, just to smooth that out just a hair, make it feel nicer, because it's just off the tool, and we don't want that. So I'm just going to work it just a little bit in here. It doesn't have to be perfect, but but just enough that when you grab inside, it doesn't feel like it's rough. And this is all, like I said, this is all end grain, so honestly, not easy to do anything with that either. The other thing I can do with this is to, and I might go ahead and do it, is to wet it down and then like basically raise the grain before I get ready to finish this thing. And that just ensures that, you know, any water that hits this in the future is not going to, once you raise the grain, you pretty much raised it for life, unless you sand through to a new surface. Anything that's on the surface here, the grain will not raise again once you've sanded it down. At least that's my finding. I'm pretty sure most other people will agree with that. But anyway, so those handles look really good now. Like I said, I'm just taking a little bit of the edge off of it, that's all. And right there, just a little bit of a chippy thing, but that feels pretty good. I mean, like I said, it doesn't have to be silky smooth, just enough that it doesn't feel like it's like fresh off the tool. And that's pretty good right there. I mean, you don't walk around and hold this forever like that, right? Okay. I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get one of these towels that I've got laying around here, one of these things. I'm going to go get this wet really quick. And then I'm just going to wipe this whole thing down. It'll do two things. A, it'll kind of clean the dust off of it. But B, it's going to raise that grain a little bit. I'm not going to get soppy wet. Just a little bit goes a long way. Some people use like a spray bottle, like a misting spray bottle. And they will lightly mist their pieces so that they get wet. Do the top. So I will just do it like this. And you can see I'm not getting it soppy wet, just enough to get those wood surfaces moist. And you can, like right away, you can start feeling the grain raising on these things as soon as you start doing this. I'm doing here too. And like I said, nice thing is I'm getting the dust off of these as well. So it's kind of serving two purposes. And it doesn't take long to dry either. Do the bottom here. This is kind of a little preview of how dark that wood's going to get. Trying to clean some of this off and clean these out. There we go. But it dries pretty quick if you don't overdo it. That's why you don't want like a soppy wet towel. You're not trying to get this thing soaked, you're just trying to get it wet. And then like, it's amazing the difference in the wood, in the feel of the wood, just from raising that grain. You wouldn't think it would be that much of a difference, but it feels like I went back two grits and sandpaper on that thing. Now, you know what I didn't do is I didn't sand this little piece off here and this piece here, which I can do now because I'm not, I didn't wet these down. So I'm just going to flatten this little piece right here, because this is going to sit under. Actually, I'm going to get a little bit more aggressive sandpaper on these two. What do I have here? It's 220. I want to be a little bit more aggressive because this will do. This will do nicely. I mean, I'm not looking for 180, maybe like around a 120 or something, just to kind of take this down and get that CA flattened down like that. And I've got to do the same thing on this piece right here. I was kind of trying to prop it up so that it has air underneath and can try to dry. This is the hard one right here, so I got to kind of work around these circles right here, because I don't want this to be raised up, because I need the cups to sit flat, and it was a very flat surface, and now there's a little bit of a bump here. from the CA. So we're just working that down flat and flush to the surface of the cup right there. That's perfect. Perfect. All right, I'm going to vacuum that out too, just so I don't get the dust all over the rest of it, because we already got that clean. All right. So this has been cleaned up. It's pretty nice. Like I said, we're just letting these sides dry, and I'm just kind of keeping them tipped on some edges here so that it has the most opportunity to get the air all around there and let those dry. I'm going to grab my salad bowl finish up here. Give that a little shaky shake. And then I'm going to get a little, I'm not going to use a lot of this stuff. It doesn't require a bunch. So I might mix some of this up in a cup. Might be the easiest thing to do. See if I've got, I've got a container up here, I think. Let me look and see. Whoa! I throw pieces of wood at myself. Careful. That's not good. Thought I had a Tupperware container up here, but I may not. I may have used it. Actually, you know what I do have is a little bowl here. This will be perfect. So I have a little, I think this was, I don't know, leftover from carry-out food or something. And sometimes I save these things. So I've got a little bowl, looks like this. And I'm just going to put a little bit of, I'm going to clean it out. And I'm going to put a little bit of about a 50-50 mix of mineral spirits and the salad bowl finish. Let me let it dry out. So let me go get I need a couple of paper towels too. Oh, we're doing this. Mineral spirits, where are you? Got some mineral spirits over here. Fresh bottle of mineral spirits right here. Fresh and dusty. All right, so I got mineral spirits here. Just your garden variety, Home Depot mineral spirits. Nothing special about it. And what I'm going to do is open, well, hang on a second. My little open, well, oh, I've got a screwdriver here. I don't like to use my screwdriver tips to open cans, but my little pry thing is underneath my router fence. So I will gently pry this off with my screwdriver here and try not to break my screwdriver tip, because that would not be good. Trying to get this off of here. There it comes. All right, we're making progress now. All right. Yeah. This is a pretty clear kind of a finish in here. You probably can't see it out inside there, but it's pretty clear. I'm just going to pour some in here. And I'm going to pour about the same amount of, about the same amount of mineral spirits in there. This is probably closed. It is. Oh, I've got a little hole in here, so that's fine. Get some mineral spirits in there. And then I will mix this together. And that will be our magic elixir for putting on this project. And then it's pretty much done. Now, that's this one. And this, like I said, this is the one that I'm keeping in my house because it was the one I did all the testing on and everything else. So it's not necessarily, this is not necessarily a perfect one right here. You know what I don't need is this sander in my way. And I had another, I've got a a little pad that I want to do this on. I don't want to do this. Actually, you know what I want to do is get some feet. Let me get some little feet here, some little painting pyramids so I can keep this off of the ground. So there we go. I've got some painting pyramids, and I think I've got a silicone mat around here. I do. I'm going to use a silicone mat just to put it underneath there so that if any spills through, it's not spilling on anything I care about. It'll be on the silicone and it'll clean off easily. There's a lovely silicone mat for you. But this allows me to keep it through. And remember, because this is end grain, it will leach through the wood. I'm going to stir this up and make sure it's just nice and mixed. All right. That should be good. Just scrap wood. I mean, I could have used like a popsicle stick or whatever. And I'm just going to take a paper towel, just a blue paper towel. I'm just going to dip it in here and just kind of lightly start going over the surface with this stuff. And it's going to soak in pretty quickly. Because it is end grain. So it'll soak in quickly. The mineral spirits will evaporate out and it will just leave behind the finish. But as of right now, what the mineral spirits does is it thins it to the point where it can quickly soak into the wood. So I'm getting all of this finish down deep into the wood, which is what really gives it the protection. And I think it looks really nice. There we go. All right. And then I can just work it around the sides. Now, I mean, this is all dry. I mean, it's just, it soaks it in so fast with that end grain. But you just keep going over it until it won't take any more. And then you do that for a couple of minutes. And then you can stop after a while. Because it'll, at some point, it'll just keep soaking it up. It's just so thirsty. I don't know if you can see how fast that flashes off. Like I put this on here and it's gone. It's that fast. It just soaks right into those wood fibers. And this will be a two-part process. So I will do this today and then I will give it a chance to cure. And then I'll come back and do this again. And most of this stuff will actually sit on the surface at that point in time because it won't soak in anymore. But I'm going to get it down in the areas here that we carved. Like I said, I don't really care about these areas so much. They're going to be covered up by the cups and the ceramic tile, but you know, they still need finish on them. All right, and inside this cup, and then let me get this one. Now there are a couple of areas where it doesn't look like it's soaking in, and that's because I probably hit those areas with CA glue to shore up the wood. Because I had some weak areas of this wood, so I'm just gonna run this over the tops a few more times, and then I'll hit the sides. I need to get, let me flip it real quick because I want to get, oh no, get out of the, whew, that's really soaked. I didn't want it to soak in that much. I want to get the hand holds on the side. I want to kind of get those covered, but I'm going to use it like this first. What happened here? Oh, it's probably sitting in these on the corners. So it's not sitting in a hole there. Hard to get it balanced because these are on holes. There we go. All right, I'm going to do the side like this. Get these handles that. But I mean, you can see how easy this is. And if you're doing mineral spirits, or not mineral spirits, if you were doing mineral oil, it would be about the same process. You just keep applying it until it doesn't take any more. With this stuff, you don't need to do that. You just kind of get it soaked in, and then we're going to let it sit. And I will come back this weekend and apply another liberal coat to it. But it should not soak in as much because this stuff is going to cure. And when it does, it will kind of basically clog up the pores of the wood, which is what we want, because that keeps stuff from soaking in and creating little homes for bacteria and whatnots. All right. Flip it back over this way. And we're just going to liberally apply some more on here. But now we're hitting it from both sides, and so it's going to fill up those wood voids a little bit better, and a little faster. But it's still just soaking in like a boss. I mean, what'd it do? And I'm going to hit these cups and stuff a little bit better. But this looks great. I mean, I love the way this turned out. I mean, it was kind of the way I pictured it in my head when I started. I had an idea, which basically went, I can't remember what I saw. There was, maybe it was on Pinterest or something. I saw like a serving tray that had cups and like a large ceramic center section to it. And I've tried to since find it. I can't. But that was my inspiration. I didn't copy it per se, but it did inspire me. And that's why I came up with this, which I think is fantastic. Now I can actually put a lid on this thing. I think I have a top for this. So I will close this up and save it for tomorrow, and I'll just open it back up and mix it and come do additional coats on here. And it should be just fine. And it looks, now it's starting to look a little bit more like I've got a little bit of a nicer surface on here. It soaked it in so fast before, it was like, that's not very shiny. It doesn't look very smooth, but it does now. So it looks really good now. All right. I'm just going to get these edges again. Let me get those handle areas a little bit more. I don't know. What do you think? Look good? You like it? Don't like it? I should just sell all my tools and go away? You let me know. I don't know. I personally think it's kind of cool looking. But that's just me. Now, probably the only one who really matters in this equation. But I'm going to... Ow! Try not to smash my finger with my giant hammer, which, by the way, don't you love my hammer? Isn't that cool looking? That is an awesome hammer right there. It's not a hammer, it's a mallet, but you know. All right. Well, let's see. I've had a bunch of people pop in and they pop back out just as fast, so they really didn't care what I was doing. Sad to say. But you know what? I try. I try to please the masses. Actually, I don't try to please the masses. I try to please myself, and hopefully the masses like what I'm doing. Let me see if I can find a lid for this stuff. And I think we're at the time of day where I can shut down. Oh, you know what? I don't know if I have a little lid. I have large lids for large stuff, but I don't know that I have a small lid over here. Yeah, that creates a little bit of a problem. I do have some larger containers I could pour it into that actually have lids. Let me see if this lid fits on here. Lid fit here? This does not look like it fits on here. You know, I use Chinese carryout, and they've recently been just changing their lid and their storage containers and stuff, and it's driving me crazy because finding ones that fit on the right bowls and stuff. Oh man, why do they keep changing their bowl designs? It's like, come on. Now I've got all these Chinese containers with lids that don't fit on these Chinese containers, and I'm trying to find the ones that go to them, but there's different ones. Let me try this one. I know, first world problems, right? Is this gonna fit? But I need something that's gonna close. That's not it. All right, well, I gotta go find me a Chinese container. So I'll do that once I cut the stream because I need to save this stuff and I don't want to throw it away. Or, hang on, I might have a container in the recycles that I cleaned out. Do I have one in here? Anywhere? No. Of course not. Nope, nothing in the recycles. So I'm gonna have to go find a container, like a butter dish or something that I've saved in my container drawer. Anyway, I'll save the rest of this finish in there, and then I will come back this weekend and apply some more. And we will be all done with this particular one. Now I'm going to do the exact same things to the other ones. So I have 2 more of these. Freefall Clash pops in at the last minute. Friday, how you doing, man? Let's see, what was I going? Oh, so yeah, so I've got 2 more of these to do the exact same thing we did today. I'm going to do the 1/8 inch roundovers. I'm going to do the 1/4 inch roundover. I'm going to do the handles on the sides. Do the final sanding. I do have that one that I'm actually going to mix CA glue for and do the same thing that we did with the black, not CA, I'm sorry. I'm going to mix some epoxy. Hey there. Hey, you know what? I took your advice. Look, see these? I'm actually wired in and I've got text to speech going. So I could actually hear you while I'm doing other things. Although I have to ask you a question. So you had mentioned a Discord, which was, I can't remember what you called it now. It wasn't Creators Guild, it was something else. And I tried to find it. I could not find the Discord server that you were talking about, which I would love to find because I would love to find other people in the community that are on Discord. So I would love to find that creator community on Discord because I use Discord all the time. I use it for gaming with my son and stuff. So, and I'm on a couple of different ones, but not one for creators. I looked that up. I couldn't find it. It was kind of weird. I tried to find Craftsman's Guild. Let me pop over here real quick and see. Craftsman's. Oh, well, it doesn't matter if you're a mod. I was just looking to see if I could actually find a joinable, just, you know, a lot of them are open. I don't know if you need invites. A lot of them are open Discords. I just couldn't find one. It is a little odd. I mean, Discord was built for gamers, and so gamers are odd, to put it nicely. I mean, my sons are both gamers, and I'm a part-time minimal gamer. Yeah, the searching capabilities on there are not easy, so finding Discords not always the easiest thing to do. There's like a Craftsman's Guild website, but that's just a boutique designing firm and stuff. So that's why I was saying trying to find, like I found a Crafters Guild, but not Craftsman's Guild. And it's like trying to find the actual address for it. I'll keep looking. I mean, I'm sure it's in there somewhere, and I can probably find a guild direct or a Discord directory. It's probably what I need to look for is a Discord directory. I could probably find one there. But it's just kind of weird that, a lot of times they have like weird addresses like .gg or something like that. And so there is a Discord kind of directory. Anyway, I'll look it up because I'm trying to find that. And like you said, it's like nice for finding communities and stuff like that. But art. I wonder if that would be under art or design. That would be under design, hobbies. I mean, it's kind of, that's what I said. They've got them kind of grouped here. I found a search thing, but even that is not really, it's weird. You only gave me one streamer, and that's the only one I was able to look at. So you're like, you didn't want to drop names. But why is my Facebook not updated? It should be. Anyhow, I have, just so you know, I've been trying to do it. And like I said, I can actually hear everything you're saying now, which is nice. Let me, turn that audio. So this was helpful. I've got, like I said, these are the ones, these are my, the headphones that I bought just for shop use, which are the IsoTunes. So these are pretty good anyway. So, but they actually connect Bluetooth to my computer. And then I actually found a program on here. It's actually a web-based program, which allows me to do text-to-speech. So that was kind of cool. I don't have to do anything else. It's called Speech Chat. And yeah, so it worked out pretty well. Oh, so they don't do a regular schedule. They just kind of like whenever kind of thing. Because I'm regular. I keep a schedule because that's one of those things that kind of like they preach to you when you're going to be live streaming is if you want people to find you and be able to find you again, be consistent with your streams. So I try to be consistent with my live streams. So usually I am Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 11 till basically 1:30. And I pretty much, I've missed like maybe 3 or 4 days. And that's it. So I'm pretty consistent. And usually when I miss, it's because it's a holiday. But anyhow, now I got to figure out what to do with this. I'm going to hang this over my trash can because it's covered in mineral spirits and salad bowl finish. So I'm going to hang this over the edge of my trash can and just let it sit there until it's dry, and then it'll be okay to throw away. But you don't want to wad up and throw away things like mineral spirits because they can combust. Yeah, I mean, I just find that for me and my schedule, I mean, I'm retired, but I do other things too. And so this time frame kind of fits with me. I've also get quite a few people from the UK because it's obviously it's later in their day. So I do find it's kind of weird. There's a lot of people who follow UK streams that are following the craft and makers stuff. So it's still kind of hard to navigate. I think that's one of the downfalls of Twitch is that it's just really hard to find creators and to find people who are active and doing things like I'm doing. I can find anybody playing any game that I want to. That's easy. But finding more specific stuff is a little harder. Now I could find, a video of somebody like live streaming their goldfish bowl probably without any problem. And it'll probably have 3,000 viewers. So, but is what it is. But I'm trying, I'm working on it. And like I said, now I can actually hear somebody pops in and says something. I'm good. I had a bunch of people pop in, but they just kind of leave right away. So obviously, they're just checking things out and seeing what's going on. And then if it's not their cup of tea, they bail out, and I get that. I do that all the time too, so. But anyway, oh, you know, you came in late. You didn't get to see this in its final state, did you? I don't want to use this one because it has finish on it. So this is what I'm making. Yeah, I agree. Oh, I'm not calling anybody out. I'm not trying to call anybody out. I'm just, you know, it's, I just think it's funny what people watch. You know what I mean? Yeah, I get that. And actually, yeah, I just need to, I've got this text to speech and I need to turn it off so it doesn't announce when people come in. Although I don't know that I guess it announces it in stream. And I need to turn that off so it doesn't announce it in stream. But I just set this up the other day so that, yeah, I just need to have it so that I'm only basically having to respond when people chat or if they interact with the chat. I did because it pops in and says, "Hey, free fall chats in the came to the room," and I was like, "Oh, cool." And it actually probably says it if you scroll through the chats. I don't know if it actually says it or not, but it'll actually put it in there. And I need to. That's a feature of the text to speech, and I need to turn that off because I do get what you say. People kind of like to come in and be under the radar until they're ready to engage. So I get that. But you know, when you're like me and you're sitting in a quiet room and all of a sudden somebody walks in, it's like, hey, there's somebody in the room with me. This is exciting. So, you know, there's that. All right. This is what it's going to look like when it's done, by the way. So I did all the routing in here so the cups sit still and then routed the center section so that the ceramic plate comes in. And I actually decorated the ceramic plate. So it's kind of cool. I experimented with this the other day, but I kind of got it down to the point where I'm really happy with my little thing here. I like to drop the hello on there. That was nice. All right. That is cool. I've got that one done. I need to do the other ones. Basically, it's just a serving tray. You know, you could use it for snacks or whatever. It's not a cutting board, even though it's made like a cutting board. So, thank you. Basically, it's for giving people. It's a cheap way of making presents that are kind of cool and different. I just wanted something that was different, that was kind of like, you know, I could do something like this, which is a basic cutting board design with ingrained cutting board stuff with the handles and such, but kind of has that little thing where you've got the cups and the little ceramic tile. The ceramic tile is painted, but I still have to coat it so that it doesn't get messed up when you put things on there. But you can use it for chips and dips and cheese and whatever kind of thing. It's just a little serving tray. So I will probably give them to friends. It was just something that I had thought of doing. And so actually now that I've done this, I'm actually kind of got the idea that, oops, my pyramid fell. I want to do a ingrain cutting board like this, but just do it in maple. And then I want to make another one in just of walnut. But what I want to do is do an inlay. So I want to cut out like because I do a lot of sewing machine stuff, right? So I want to find a silhouette of an antique sewing machine and carve that out and then do a infill. You could. I've actually made a chessboard before. So there, I mean, the hardest part is keeping them even because it's a lot harder than it sounds to keep all your pieces even. Usually what I like to do is I'll make a frame that goes around the chessboard, and that kind of negates you having to chop things down on the edge, and it keeps things much more squared out. But yeah, chessboards, I mean, this center spot right here, these are all squares. So these are 1.25 inches. So that's kind of what it would look like. You can make them a little larger if you wanted to. Chessboards are easy. But my thought is I want to carve out a section in the middle of a silhouette of a sewing machine, and then I want to do an inlay using the other one. Yeah, so inlays are fun. Having a CNC machine, I can do the inlay. So I want to use, like I said, make one of these just out of walnut, but make it really thin, carve out the inlay, and slice it out on my bandsaw, glue it in there, and get that to work. That's my next kind of, I think, project for my CNC and for doing this. And then that's something I can actually make it a cutting board. I could just fill it with epoxy, so I could make the cutout of the sewing machine and fill it with epoxy. And I've done that for I made a big Jack Daniels cutting board thing with the big Jack Daniels logo on there, and I did a whole epoxy fill on it and stuff. But it's more decorative than it is useful, because if you cut on the epoxy, it's going to scratch and cut and mar. So the epoxy inlay is decorative but not really functional as a cutting board. But if you cut the inlay piece out of another piece of ingrain wood or an ingrain panel, then it remains functional as a cutting board. And so that's kind of what I'm going to go for, is something like that. And then I can actually sell it at my shop for a couple $100 because someone will buy it. Because they're just, oh, speaking of which, I sold a machine yesterday, or a base yesterday. I need to get that boxed up for the mail. But what time is it? 1:15. My postman's really weird. Some days it's like he's here at 11, and some days he comes in at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I have no idea when he's going to show up. So it's hard for me to schedule my stuff. I do not go to the post office. I do all of my shipping at home. I print my labels and buy my stuff through PayPal or USPS, and it's so much easier. The only time I go to the post office is when I have like a bunch of stuff that I've sold, and I'll carry like 4 or 5 packages, but they're already done. So I just walk by everybody in line. Yeah, I do need to ship it. But yeah, it's, you know how fun it is to walk past 20 people in line at the post office and drop your packages off and say, see ya. It's a special feeling. And you get a lot of really fun looks from the people in line too. Like, you know, you're cutting and you're, you know, being a jerk and stuff. And it's like, no, I just know how to use the internet instead of standing in line. And plus it's cheaper, by the way. So you all need to learn how to use the internet. It's only been around for a couple of years. But it's amazing how many people don't know how to ship their own stuff. And it's one of those things you really should learn how to do. All right, that looks really good. Lovely. It smells like mineral spirits. Have you ever used a salad bowl finish? Pretty nice. eBay makes it easy because eBay, you can do the shipping through eBay, and so it does everything for you. And you know, they basically have all of the that you just put in what type of shipping, and they've actually expanded. It used to be USPS, now they offer UPS and FedEx, and you can do all that. The only thing I don't like about eBay is that eBay takes a cut out of everything. So unless you're doing free shipping, if somebody pays for, let's say you ship something to, I don't know, from here to St. Louis, and it costs $15 for 2 days shipping, and you're buying your shipping through eBay, and they know that you're buying it through eBay because you're using their service, they still take a cut of that $15 that person pays to you. They take part of that money, which is ridiculous because that shouldn't be part of the fee that they take, which is one of the things that really irks me about about eBay. eBay, I don't use them unless I absolutely have to. That being said, there's some things you're not going to find customers for except on eBay. I mean, because you can sell the most obscure thing in the world, and someone out there on eBay is looking for that thing. So it does have that advantage, I will say. Facebook Marketplace is a mess. A lot of goofy people out there. I don't like that as much. Oh, yeah, furniture's that's now you talk about something hard to ship. Do you sell your furniture and ship it? Because that's a thing. Um, I sold a flat table. It was a knockdown table. I sold that, and I mean the shipping on the thing was like $100. Of course, it went to California, but it was like $100 to ship that thing. And I flat packed it and packed it really well. But that was such a pain. I don't know how people ship furniture. It's crazy. I see people selling furniture on Etsy. So, I don't know if they're flat packing it or making crates for it, but with the shipping costs, um, yeah, it's kind of crazy. I uh, I have standard boxes that I use for my sewing machine bases. So it's like a 22 by 10 by 6. Yeah. Do you sell your furniture that you make? Or is it mostly like stuff for your home and for friends and stuff like that? I'm just curious. If you don't want to answer, you don't have to. Um, it's something that I've kind of started dipping my toe into is making some furniture. And like I said, I sold a table not long ago, and I have a couple of other things that I'm going to sell. The cherry table I'm getting ready to work on, I'm going to sell that. And I'm just curious how other makers are selling their furniture and what they're doing about shipping. Okay, which I think is a lot of people that just dabble in it and aren't full in. And I'm not full in either. I mean, this is all part-timey things for me. It's more hobby than business. Although I do sell the stuff that I make a lot of times just because it pays for more hobby. So that's kind of why I do it. But because it pays for the wood that I want to use for the stuff I'm making, as well as the stuff that I'm selling. But I do want to make some. I mean, there's a lot of profit margin to come out of some of the furniture stuff. And like I said, I made that knockdown table, and it was $500 that I sold it for. Yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy to get into. It depends on where you live too. I know some people who sell through Facebook Marketplace and through their Facebook page, and because of the area they're located in, it's all local sales, and they do really well with their stuff. And they're making like the farm tables and stuff like that. So I think it depends. If you're in an area where there's a lot of competition, much harder to get into that unless you've got something really unique and that stands out a lot. Um, and the funny thing is, a lot of times I'll see these trends come through and they start saturating the market. And so what you come up with a unique thing and everybody starts doing it, like river tables, for example. When river tables first came out, there weren't that many people doing it, and pouring epoxy was hard, and getting it to look really cool and look right was hard. And now it's a really common thing, and everybody can do it. And epoxy companies are making deep pour epoxy just for it. And so it's really kind of gone from a really cool specialized thing to a dime a dozen and a very saturated market to where it's very hard to be unique in that category. So, and that happens with, I think, some niche markets where it's really, where people see it, they just jump in and start doing it. Yeah, I have never made a river table. Um, but I, I don't pour that much epoxy. I don't like doing big deep pours of epoxy either. It's just kind of one of those things that I'm not set up for it. I don't have the room and the space for it, and you have to make molds, and it's a lot of work. So I don't do that. I would do live edge slabs with some epoxy fills on them, and that's kind of what I prefer. But even live edge stuff is really, the market's kind of saturated. That's kind of, it went to live edge. I think a few years ago it was mid-century modern was the thing, where everybody was, that was the big thing in the market, was people were really hot over mid-century modern stuff. And then it went to like river tables and then live edge. And so if you kind of sit back and look at like all of the Instagram feeds from woodworkers and all this other stuff, you can really see where the marketplace shifts to. And kudos to those people who are on the leading edge of those markets and do stuff, because they're getting in early. Yeah, and that's what I'm getting ready to do on this next project I got, is a live edge. I've got a live edge piece of cherry, a crotch live edge that's been sitting in my garage for like 3 years now. And I've got it flattened. I'm just ready to start working on it and make some legs. And I mean, the cool thing about live edge is that it's not hard, because it's really, you're cleaning up the wood, making sure it's flat, and then you put some finish on it. And it's not very problematic. A lot of people just buy like the metal legs and put metal legs on it, and off they go. That's the other thing. It was like a really big thing, was people making coffee tables with like the hairpin legs. Those became super common. I don't care for those, but mm-hmm. Yeah. In fact, I was at Woodcraft the other day, and they were actually selling metal table legs in Woodcraft. They sold, I mean, they were kind of cool. They weren't just the hairpins. They had other designs and stuff, but they were all different, like for coffee tables and for taller tables and stuff. It was pretty amazing. Yeah, that's it. And I mean, it depends on how much work they do. Like for mine, I'm going to be putting bow ties in it, and I'm going to be doing some epoxy fills in there. And so there is some work to go into it. But yeah, if they're just doing a slab and putting hairpins on there, and they sell it for 300 bucks, depending on how much they paid for their slab, they're not putting a whole lot of work into that thing. So I like stuff that at least makes me work at it and put some craftsmanship into it. Like my table, I mean, I could do metal legs. That'd be really easy for me, but I'm going to actually be making the legs out of, I've got a design where I'm going to kind of build some trapezoid leg panels, and then have bridle joints with another piece securing the two ends, and, be creative. Yeah, that's some cool stuff. That's a little beyond my skill level. A lot of that stuff, I mean, it's beautiful to look at, and I love, like, I'll sit there and watch YouTube videos of people building stuff like that, and it's just like, wow, it's very cool. But for me, you know, if I can come up with a creative way of doing like table legs and stuff, and it kind of broadens my skill sets, um, I'm all about that. One guy that I really like watching who makes slab tables, and he makes like the most amazing slab tables, is Blacktail Studios. If you haven't checked out their YouTube, you need to. It's very cool. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Um, but check out Blacktail Studios and look at some of the slabs. I mean, he buys these massive, like Gobi walnut and stuff. I mean, just the most beautiful wood ever, and makes these amazing tables. And he's selling them. I mean, he used to work out of his garage, and he sells these things for like, 10, 15, $20,000. Um, but it usually takes him months to do these things, and his level of craftsmanship on making it, he's just not slapping legs on the slab. I mean, it's good stuff. So if you ever get Blacktail Studio, it's worth the watch, because his stuff is really cool. And he has this whole like very kind of Bob Ross talk over his stuff too. Yeah, it's good. It's worth the watch. If you spend any time watching people on YouTube, his stuff is definitely worth it. Ooh, okay, that feels different. So I'm gonna hit this with some. Oh yeah, mine was pretty cheap. The cherry one I got because I was friends with the guy at the lumber place that unfortunately is no longer there. But he gave me a deal on it. But yeah, some of them I would like walk in, and it depends on where you buy them. Like if you buy your slabs at Woodcraft, you're gonna pay premium dollars. But yeah, I've seen them anywhere from a couple of $100 to you get some really nice walnut stuff, and you're looking at $2,000-3,000 for slabs. So, and that's the kind of thing. It's like I would just be nervous to work on a piece of wood that costs that much, because you screw it up, and it's just like there's no go back. I will say a lot of people actually have clients for the stuff they're buying, so they're not buying it hoping to sell it. They already have clients that they're going to sell this stuff to. But yeah, a lot of people already have somebody lined up that they're selling it to, and then they'll go and buy the slabs and then talk to the client about how they want it to look and everything else. They're not just buying wood and hoping somebody will want to buy it once they're finished, like I am. That's what I'm doing with my chairs. I just couldn't pass it up. I figure if nothing else, I don't have a coffee table in my family room, so I'll just put it in there, and if nobody wants it, I have a new coffee table. So that worked out for me. Wow, that's a lot. Now I have a half a cookie. I don't know if you've seen my half a cookie. I actually have a whole cookie, but I have half of it here in my garage. Oh my God, it's so heavy. Ugh. So I have this big half of a walnut cookie that came from a tree in my buddy's backyard that fell down. And I helped him move a bunch of stuff, so he gave me a big cookie slab. This thing is thick. It is like 4 inches thick, and it's big and beefy. Oh, and I got to put it back down, or I'm going to hurt myself. But I'm going to turn this into a table at some point in time. There we go. So I have another one sitting in front of my house, just leaning up against the house, that is the other half of that one. It got a big crack in it, and I just split it into 2 cookies. And I figure I'll make it into an end table, a coffee table, or something. That's oak, and it's hard. And flattening the thing was a pain in the rear. I have a flattening sled that I use, but I need to take it down. It's just too thick. It needs to come down to about 3 inches instead of the 4. I need to lose about 1 inch off of that. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my my circular saw and just make a whole bunch of passes across the top of it and cut a whole bunch of slits, and then get a hammer and break those pieces off, and then reflatten it down so I can lose about 1 inch off of the thickness. Because right now it's just too thick. It's too heavy. See, I don't know if it did you see that one pop in? I don't know if you saw. And I need to turn that feature off because somebody popped in. I don't know how to do that. I'm going to check and see. Because there is a way of actually controlling what it actually announces and what it does. So I can actually go into the control panel of this thing, and under, let's see, events. There we go. Yeah, so I need to find out how to actually not announce people coming in. Yeah, I'm looking for it. I mean, it has some really cool stuff. Like if people raid, it can say, hey, thanks for, bringing a raid in and stuff like that, which is cool. I've been raided on a couple of occasions, and it's very nice. Oh, here we go. I got it. I got it. It's under welcoming. I got it. There we go. So we're good. So if anybody joins now, it should not welcome them to the chat or announce that they're in the chat. It only announces it if they actually participate in the chat now, which is what we want. At least that's what I want. Okay. Yeah, I think he came in and he went back out. So, but that's okay. Like I said, I mean, I sit there and pop in and out of Twitch streams all the time. I do that, and because you know, sometimes you just don't know. I mean, they give you a little feed when you first go in, but that doesn't really tell you what you want to know. Yeah, it's actually really handy. I can't believe it's a web-based program too. It's really handy, and it actually works well. I had to find a voice that sounded good. So when I'm listening to it, it doesn't sound, some of them were really, really not good voices and I couldn't understand them. So I had to find the right voice. But anyway. All right. Salad bowl finish. Most of these people don't use this for salad bowls. They use it for spoons and stuff like that, for spoon carving. But it does really well for cutting boards too. That's a wood whisperer trick. I got that from Mark Spagnolo, the wood whisperer. And I've used it on a couple of them, and it turns out really nice and much better than the mineral spirits, or not mineral spirits, but then mineral oil, which has to be refreshed every month or so, or your boards dry out. So this stuff really seals up, and then you can sand it and run it again, which is what I'm going to do tomorrow. What time is it? 1:30. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to call it for the day because I've got to find a place to put this stuff, and I've got to get some lunch, and then I have a guitar lesson this afternoon. So that's always fun. And yep, get on with my Friday. So thanks for coming in. I appreciate it. And the chat is always fun. And I hope you have a great weekend. And you can get out in your shop and have some fun, because that kind of makes it all worthwhile. And then I'll come back next week and probably be done with this stuff. Maybe, hopefully I'll be done with this stuff. And then maybe you'll get to see that cherry slab, because that's my next project that I'm going to work on, is the cherry slab. So, oh, I'm taking lessons. I started my guitar journey late in life. So I've been going to the same guy for like, I don't know, 5 years now. So we more just kind of sit around and play. But I started playing guitar later in life, and that's actually what got me into woodworking for the most part, was guitars, because I started, I would buy guitar. I'm kind of a gear junkie. So I started buying guitars, and I started modifying guitars, changing out the electronics, the pickups and things like that. And well, if you're making shavings, you can, because farmers actually like shavings, just not walnut, because that'll kill their animals. But wood shavings, you can. Probably not sawdust. Maybe. You know what? There's somebody who will buy something out there. I guarantee that. Put it on eBay. I'll bet somebody buys it from you. You may not get market value, but somebody will buy your sawdust from you. But anyway, all right, well, listen, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up, and I'm going to go grab some lunch and put my finish away so I can use it tomorrow. And you have a great weekend. Thanks for stopping in. I really appreciate you being here. Take care, and hopefully I'll see you next week. All right, see you, buddy.